Radha Kund is famous as the most sacred place in the whole universe. It is the bathing place of Srimati Radharani and is as dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Lord Krishna as she is. In this video, we do the complete parikrama around both Radha Kund and Shama Kund, visiting all the sacred places around the banks of these kunds. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur prays, Radha Kund and Shama Kund are Govardhan's two love-filled eyes. They are two great floods of the nectar of beauty. They are two great oceans of splendor. They are two beautiful roots from which sweet devotional service grows. They are two jewel mines of love. They are two seeds from which grow the jewel vines of transcendental pastimes. How did they become two splendid and nectar-sweet lakes? By seeing these two lakes, Radha and Krishna believe they are present in them. It is as if they directly see each other there. The wise say that by approaching these lakes, one directly approaches Radha and Krishna. Longing to meet, but forced to remain separate, Radha and Krishna assume the forms of Radha Kund and Shama Kund. In this way they become splashed with the nectar of meeting each other. I think that when Radha saw Krishna, she melted with ecstasy and thus assumed the liquid state of the waters of Radha Kund. And in the same way, when Krishna saw Radha, he also melted in ecstasy and became the waters of Shama Kund. In this way, these two lakes bear the names and qualities of the divine couple. Out of great kindness to the people, so they could directly taste their sweetness, Radha and Krishna have become these two lakes. Shining with happiness, the devotees bathe in these two lakes. I think these two lakes are the divine couple's love. They who are fortunate bathe there, because bathing there is like bathing in their transcendental love. These two lakes bear the names of the divine couple. Spelled backwards, the word Sara, lake, becomes Rasa, nectar. They who are aware of this great secret bathe in these two lakes. So now, please come with us and let your hearts and minds bathe in the sacred waters of this place and take shelter of the deities who are here. We set out from the parking area near the crossroads outside Radha Kund and head in through the village. It's the beginning of Kartik, so we encounter many people doing Govardhan Parikrama, heading in the opposite direction to us. Before coming to the Kund, we stop at the Radha Gokulananda temple. We pass through the little courtyard and enter the temple to have darshan of the deities. The temple is based on the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan town, which was established originally by Lokanath Goswami. Radha Gokulananda are the small deities in the middle. Outside is the Pushpa Samadhi of Lokanath Goswami. From there, we pass through the village again, seeing some of the local bridge buses at their daily activities. Just next to the end of Radha Kund is the temple of Kundeshwar Mahadev, a form of Lord Shiva as a Shiva Linga, who is here as a devotee to protect Radha Kund from unqualified people who may try to intrude here. In Radha Kripa Katakshaka, Lord Shiva prays to Srimati Radharani, O goddess worshipped by the kings of sages, O goddess who removes the sufferings of the three worlds, O goddess whose face is a blossoming lotus, O goddess who enjoys pastimes in the forest, O daughter of Vrishabhanu, O companion of Vraja's prince, when will you cast your merciful sidelong glance upon me? We go down to the banks of Radha Kund and recite some prayers from Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati's Vrindavan Mahim Amrita. He says, there is a place so fragrant it defeats the fragrance of sandalwood multiplied millions of times. There is a place so fragrant it defeats the fragrance of musk multiplied millions of times. There's a place more fragrant than a flood of camphor. There is a place more fragrant than an abundance of kumkum. There is a place so wonderfully fragrant that it defeats a guru. By Radha Kund's shore, in a beautiful jewel pavilion, accompanied by her gopi friends and singing wonderful duets with dark-complexioned Krishna, may King Vrishabhanu's daughter appear before me. With their lotus hands, Radha and her friends repeatedly splash Lord Krishna, the jewel of lovers. Krishna then lowered his moon-like face and cried out, "Enough, enough, I accept defeat." When Radha heard these syllables, which were like a great flood of nectar, she stopped splashing and burst into laughter. I wonder, did pastimes like this happen here in this place? May Sri Radha and her beloved, who are flooded with waves of very, very wonderful sweetness, playful, transcendental pastimes, splendid beauty, and expert knowledge of the arts of love, and the wonder of whose beauty increases hundreds and hundreds of times at Radha Kund, appear in my heart. 5,000 years ago when Krishna was here, there was no Radha Kund and Shama Kund initially, but they were manifested in the course of a special pastime. That Krishna, at one point, Krishna killed a great demon named Arishtasura. Arishtasura was in the form of a bull. So Krishna killed Arishtasura. He was feeling very good about it. And he went and told the gopis here, Krishna came here and told the gopis, I just killed a demon, Arishtasura. He had taken the form of a bull. And the gopis got very angry. How could you kill a male cow? How can you do something like that? You're contaminated. But Krishna said, no, he was a demon. He was a demon. He was not like a real cow. He was a demon. He just assumed that form. The gopis said, doesn't matter. You killed a cow. You're contaminated. We will not touch you. And Krishna asked, so what can I do to get purified? They said, you have to bathe in all the holy waters of all the holy rivers and lakes and kunds in the whole universe. So Krishna became very thoughtful. Then Krishna did a very interesting thing. Over here at the back where Shamakund is now, Krishna struck the ground with his heel and made quite a big indentation in the ground. Then by mantra, Krishna called all the holy rivers and lakes. They all came in their personal forms and then assumed liquid forms and filled up that hole. Krishna took bath in the hole, and then Krishna said, all right, now I'm completely purified. I've taken bath in all these holy waters. But now I don't want to associate with you, because now I'm so pure, I'm extremely pure, so I don't want to associate with you any longer. So what were the gopis to do? So Srimati Radharani took one of her bangles, and in the middle of this area here, which is now Radha Kund, Srimati Radharani dug out some earth with her bangle. Then initially she and the gopis, they formed a great chain from Manasi Ganga, and they were passing pots of water along this chain to fill up that hole. The other gopis also, with their bangles, they dug out some more earth. So they were bringing water from Manasi Ganga to fill the hole. But then all those sacred waters, which were in what is now Shamakund, they broke through, they pushed through, and came pouring into the hole made by Radharani and the gopis. And in this way, Radha Kund was formed. So then Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna, they were in so much ecstasy that they assumed liquid forms, and Radharani in her liquid form entered those waters of Radha Kund, and Krishna in his liquid form, he entered the waters of Shamakund. Therefore we understand that these kunds are not just sacred waters, but they're actually not different from the transcendental bodies of Radha and Krishna. And you know, normally, in order to approach the transcendental body of the Lord, like the deity form of the Lord, one has to be second initiated. Not anyone can just handle the deity form of the Lord. So if one wants to bathe in Radha Kund and Shamakund, one has to take it very seriously and be very, very respectful, and not just go jumping in and splashing around. But one should take it that these are the liquid forms of Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna. Here we find an ISKCON devotee doing Dandavat Parikrama of Radha Kund and Shamakund. This was a regular practice of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami when he was living here. Just above Radha Kund, we take a left turn at this corner to go to the old Radha Krishna temple, said to be the oldest temple in the village. Inside is a large neem tree and a banyan tree entwined around another. The local people say that they are Radha and Krishna embracing each other. We go into the temple and have darshan of the deities. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami found these deities while he was having Radha Kund and Shama Kund excavated, and understood that they were the original presiding deities of the kunds. The Pujari tells us they are original 5,000-year-old deities of Vrindavana. We then head back down to Radha Kund. Up on the top here, we can see a stone arch. That stone arch is at the place which is now called Julan Talam. This is where the swing, one of the main swings of Radha and Krishna was. The swing was placed there by Lalita and Vishaka. They put Radha and Krishna on the swing. And then it manifested as a giant lotus with 8 big petals. The Astasakis sat on those petals. Then it manifested 16 petals, an outer ring, and more gopis sat on that. And then 32, then 64, 128, 256, 512. And then, as they say, there were megabytes and megabytes of petals with thousands and thousands of gopis sitting on those petals. And Radha and Krishna and the gopis, they had beautiful swinging pastimes there. So up on the top, you can see it's like a stone archway. It's like a stone archway where that Julan, that big swing, used to be. Julan Talam. From here, we head away from Radha Kund to have darshan of Radha Kunja Bihari at the Kunja Bihari Gaudiya Mat temple, established personally by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Here, there's also a Pushpa Samadhi of Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. We walk on through the end of the village to see Malyahari Kund, where Radha and Krishna's pearl pastimes from Nandagram were concluded, as described by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. He quotes Lord Krishna as saying, "Thereupon I very happily gathered up all those pretty pearls, and taking the very best ones, fashioned them with the artistic skill of my own hands into a variety of exquisite ornaments and jewelry for the lovely limbs of Sri Radha. These I placed in a golden box, which was then decorated on top by the auspicious letters of her name. Many unstrung pearls of the most excellent quality I then dispatched to the Kunj Mandir by the side of Radha Kund, with Nandi Mukhi, Madhu Mangal, Subal, and the other Nama Sakas. These were very jubilantly received by the smiling Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, and the other Sakis, all laughing in ecstasy to celebrate the joyous occasion. Madhu Mangal was then very affectionately served with a large quantity of delicious cooked food and a packet of tambula. Fresh flower garlands prepared by the hands of the gopis from a variety of golden jasmine flowers were sent along to be given to me. Under the influence of their love, I felt overjoyed as I decorated myself with those flower garlands and enjoyed the tambula. Then, in the company of my friends, I set off for Govardhan to pasture my cows. From Malyahari Kund, we move on to Shiva Kaur, which one passes as one enters the back of Radha Kund village on Govardhan Parikrama. Here, there's the small temple of Rameshwar Shiva. Padma Purana describes that once a female jackal came to this kund to drink water, but some children surrounded her and began beating her. She hid in a foxhole to escape, but the children lit a fire at the entrance, so she would be forced to come out and they could catch her. But Srimati Radharani is always here at Radha Kund, and she heard the crying of the jackal. She sent a gopi, who then chased away the children and brought the jackal to Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. The jackal surrendered to Radharani, who granted her eternal devotional service. Now we go back into Radha Kund village to continue our parikrama along the northern side of Radha Kund. The first temple we visit is the Gopal temple, now an ISKCON temple in Radha Kund. This temple was built by the king of Manipur some generations ago. He was a great Vaishnava. But then around 1980, the current king donated it to ISKCON via His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj. The deity here is named Gopal. And when the king was in the process of building the temple, the deity appeared to him in a dream and told him, please place me facing out the door directly in the easterly direction, so that when the sun rises in the morning, it'll shine directly on me. I'll be able to give my blessings to Surya, the demigod of the sun, and also have nice darshan of Radha Kund. So the temple was built in that way. Then the temple was donated to Maharaj in 1980, and unfortunately recently Maharaj left this world for Goloka Vrindavan. So here we can see his samadhi just behind the temple building. Immediately over the road from the Gopal temple is the Radhakanta temple of Vikreshvara Pandit. He is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita as being an incarnation of Aniruddha, one of the quadruple expansions of the Lord, and he would dance in kirtan for 72 hours. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Lord Chaitanya would personally sing while Vikreshvara Pandit danced, And then Vakreshvara Pandit would sometimes fall at the lotus feet of the Lord and speak to him as follows. He would say, "O Chandramukha, please give me 10,000 Gandharvas. Let them sing as I dance, and then I'll be greatly happy." Lord Chaitanya replied, "I have only one wing like you, but if I had another, certainly I would fly in the sky." On the right of the deities is a deity of Vakreshvara Pandit. Many widows come to Radha Kund to spend the last days of their lives at this holy place, although it is a struggle for them to maintain themselves here. Just up the small alley past the Gopal temple and on the left we find the Radha Shamsundar temple, in which there are Pratibhu or replacement deities of the original Radha Shamsundar who are in Vrindavana town. Lord Brahma prays, "I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shamsundar, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love." Next to the altar is a Pushpa Samadhi of Shyamananda Prabhu, who worshipped Radha Shamsundar. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, we go into the Radha Damodar temple, where there are Pratibhu forms of Srimati Radharani and Krishna as Damodar, who was tied with ropes by Mother Yashoda. There's another pastime also, in which the gopis performed a children's wedding for Radha and Krishna, and the divine couple were tied together with rope as part of the ceremony. In this way, they are known as Sri Sri Radha Damodar. A little further up the road, we find the temple of Radha Madhava, who are being worshipped by Manipuri devotees of ISKCON. We see the deities dressed here in Manipuri style. This is where Srinivasacharya stayed when he was in Radha Kund, and opposite the deities is his sitting place. He was the leader of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas after the disappearance of the 6 Goswamis, and would encourage his followers to stay up all night on Ekadasi and chant. He told them to tie string to their seekers and attach it to the ceiling, so that if they fell asleep while chanting, they would be quickly woken up. The Radha Gopinath temple is back on the Parikrama path on the right-hand side. Now we're in the Radha Gopinath temple, which was established just following the visit of Mother Janava to Radha Kund. Mother Janava is the main wife of Lord Nityananda, and just after the Lord left this world, she came here to Braj Mandala, visited all the sacred places, and she also came here and stayed in Radha Kund for 4 days. While she was here, she had a vision of Srimati Radharani with Lord Krishna in his form as Gopinath. Gopinath is the particular form of the Lord that Mother Janava worships. In fact, Mother Janava in Krishna Lila, she is Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Srimati Radharani. So following the visit of Mother Janava, the devotees installed deities of Radharani and Gopinath with the deity of Ananga Manjari on our left-hand side of Lord Krishna. Normally, when Gopinath is being worshipped, then Radharani will be on our left, and Ananga Manjari will be on our right of Krishna. But here in this temple, Ananga Manjari is on our left and Radharani is on our right. Then every day, Mother Janava would go outside and sit on the banks of Radha Kunda, looking out across those sacred waters. The place she's sitting in is now commemorated with a special asana and sitting arrangement for her. Behind it, there are steps going down into the Kund so that she can bathe privately. So she would sit here every day and chant overlooking Radha Kund. And it's said that from that place where she would sit, she would see a bridge going out into the center of Radha Kund to an island. And on that island, Radha and Krishna would be sitting there with some of the gopis. And there would be bridges going to the other sides also. And Mother Janava would sit there and see this beautiful transcendental scene every day. Actually, they say that that island and those bridges are still there today, but you need transcendental eyes to see them. Here also is the Samadhi of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. He lived here for nearly 50 years and was responsible for the excavation and development of Radhakund and Shyamakund. There are many different pastimes that happened with Raghunath Das here at Radhakund. In Bhakti Ratnakara there's a description of how every day he would do parikrama of Radhakund and offer obeisances to the deities, offering full prostrated dandavats. Actually, he had taken a vow to offer 1,000 obeisances a day to deities of Krishna. So one day, when Raghunath Das was very old, some devotees were doing parikrama of Radhakund. They came to one temple on the other side, and what should they find but there's Srila Raghunath Das Goswami just lying on the ground, offering dandavats, unable to stand up again. So the devotees lifted him up, and they told him, you don't need to do this any longer, offering these dandavat prostrated obeisances. We know it's very difficult for you. Surely Krishna understands, and all you have to do is just offer some pranams, and Krishna will accept that from you. So don't offer dandavats any longer. Raghunath Das Goswami agreed and thanked them. But then the next day, as they were doing parikrama again, they came to the same temple, and what should they find? There was Raghunath Das Goswami, prostrated on the ground again, unable to stand up. And again they had to lift him up. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was like that. His adherence to the rules and regulations, his strict following of sadhana bhakti was so strong that Chaitanya Charitamrita says that his following of the rules and regulations, it was like lines carved in rock, totally unbending, totally inflexible. Then finally left this world here on the banks of Radha Kund, and he was placed in Samadhi here by the Radha Gopinath temple. Almost directly across the road from Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's Samadhi is the Radha Raman temple, based on the temple of the same name in Vrindavan town. The small deities on the left are Radharaman, and the larger deities on our right are Revati Balaram. Next we go to the Radha Govinda temple, in the grounds of which is the famous tongue of Govardhan Hill. Now we're in the Radha Govinda temple. When the main deities of Vrindavan were being moved to Jaipur because of the attacks of the Muslims, they all stopped here at Radha Kund on the way out. And Radha Govinda, when they passed through, they stopped in this place and stayed here for a few days. So later on, the devotees built this temple here on the same spot and installed Pratibhu, or replacement deities of Radha Govinda here. As you can see, they're exceptionally beautiful deities and are being worshipped very nicely.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
On the Gopastami day in Kartik, Srimati Radharani is dressed as a cowherd boy. Jatila, Srimati Radharani's mother-in-law, was refusing to let her out of the house, but Subal, one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, was able to sneak into Yavat and exchange his clothes with her. And then Srimati Radharani was able to come out dressed as a cowherd boy and have a clandestine meeting with the Lord. We then go to have darshan of the tongue of Govardhan Hill. Right next to the Radha Govinda temple, we find the tongue of Govardhan Hill. When Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was having Radha Kund and Shama Kund excavated, they needed a place that they could take water from for their personal use, for bathing and washing clothes and so on, because they didn't want to take the sacred waters from the kunds for those purposes. So Raghunath Das Goswami sent some of the workers out behind Shama Kund to dig a well there. As they were digging, one of the workers struck a rock with his spade, and to his astonishment, blood came pouring out of that rock. He came back and told Raghunath Das Goswami, and Raghunath was also amazed. That night, Raghunath Das saw Govardhan Hill in a dream, and Govardhan told him, "That was my tongue that your worker hit. So please take it out, put it in a temple, and worship it." So since that time, nearly 500 years ago, this Govardhan Shila, the tongue of Govardhan Hill, has been worshipped here very nicely.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We walk down the lane by the Radha Govinda temple and come to the temple of the three Samadhis.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Now we're at the temple of the three Samadhis. When we look inside, we see on our left-hand side is the Samadhi of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. In the center at the back is the Samadhi of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and on our right-hand side is the Samadhi of Raghunath Das Goswami. They all passed away on the same day, but in different years, here at Radha Kunda. Now, of course, you may remember we were just at a Samadhi of Raghunath Das Goswami. You might wonder, how come we find there are two Samadhis here? Well, what happened was that, of course, the great devotees, their bodies are not cremated, but they are buried whole. And that is what happened with all three of these devotees. But then, as the attacks of the Muslims intensified, the devotees became worried that the Muslims would dig out the bodies of these three great Vaishnavas and break them up and desecrate them. So therefore the devotees decided to take out the bodies themselves and cremate them. So that was what they did. And then half of Raghunath Das's ashes were placed in the first Samadhi where we were earlier, and half of his ashes are here. Half of Raghunath Bhatta's ashes are here, and half of his ashes are in Vrindavan town. And in the case of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, his ashes are here. If one goes down the stairs to the right of the three Samadhis and turns left on the banks of Radha Kund, one comes to the Banki Bihari temple. The original Banki Bihari is in Vrindavan town, where he was worshipped by Swami Haridas, an associate of the six Goswamis. When Haridas would visit Radha Kund, he would stay at this place between the kunds, and therefore the temple was later established at the same place. On the altar we see some interesting looking Govardhan Shilas. The one on our right is said to be Radharani's breast. The one in the middle is Banki Bihari's chest, and the one on the left is Lalita's breast. We're here now at the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami lived here at this place for 49 years. Raghunath Das was asked by Lord Chaitanya to develop these places, but he had no resources. But he was very strongly desiring to do that. And by Krishna's arrangement, there was one very wealthy man. He was on his way to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas on a pilgrimage, and he had taken a lot of money with him to donate to Badrinath. But while he was on the way, he had a dream, and in that dream, Krishna spoke to him and said, no, you should go to Vrindavan, find Raghunath Das Goswami and give him the money so he can develop Radha Kund and Shama Kund. So he came here. Raghunath Das was not expecting anything, but this man just walked up and said, here you are, take all this money. And in this way, Raghunath Das was able to develop these kunds. So they were planning out the work, where to dig and how big to make the kunds and so on. And Radha Kund, as you've seen, Radha Kund is square. And Raghunath Das was also going to make Shama Kund square. But one night he had a dream in which the 5 Pandavas appeared to him. And the 5 Pandavas said, we're here in the form of trees. So please don't cut us down. Please make the kunds around us. And in that way we can continue to live in this very sacred place. So that's why Shama Kunda is not square. And those trees, they were still living up till a few years ago.
Yeah.
Just behind us here, you can see there's one tree which unfortunately is not living. It's being supported by that brick pillar just there. That tree was Bhima. And just around the corner, there's the only tree that is still living, that's Arjuna. So like this, the Pandavas, even though only one of the trees is living now, but people say that the other Pandavas entered into that tree when their trees left this world a few years ago. So then Raghunath Das, after he finished constructing the kunds, Raghunath Das made his residence here in this very sacred place. And he had many pastimes here. There are two famous pastimes. They're depicted in this picture on the wall. Two pastimes in one picture. If you look at the picture, you'll see there's Raghunath Das in the center. He's chanting there on the banks of Shama Kunda Manasapavan Ghat. And you can see in the top left of the picture is Sanatan Goswami. He's actually on the other side of the Kund where the Madan Mohan temple is now. And he's watching across to Raghunath Das Goswami. So now in the first pastime, Raghunath Das was sitting there chanting. Sanatan was watching from the other side. But then Sanatan saw two tigers came down by the side of the Kund, just near to Raghunath Das where he was chanting. But Raghunath was so absorbed in chanting his japa, he didn't even notice that they were there. But Sanatan on the other side, he noticed, and he became very anxious what to do. But then he saw Krishna appear to give his blessings and to protect Raghunath Das Goswami. So afterwards Sanatan Goswami came and spoke with Raghunath, and he said, you know, you engaged Krishna in your service there to protect you from the tigers. I think you should build some little hut or something, because at least it'll give you some protection. And Raghunath Das said, yes, okay, I'll think about it. But he didn't do anything. Then comes the second pastime. Now in the second pastime, Raghunath Das is still sitting there in the same place by Shama Kund. But now it was the middle of summer, very hot, maybe 50 degrees. But Raghunath again, he was so absorbed in chanting, he didn't even notice the very hot weather. But Sanatan, who was again watching from Madan Mohan's side, Sanatan was anxious. You know, maybe something will happen to him if he's exposed to the sun for too long. But then he saw Radharani appeared and came and held her sari over the head of Raghunath Das Goswami and protected him from the sun, while she stood there in the sun, just getting the full force of the sun and perspiring. But she did that to protect Raghunath Das Goswami. So then later, Sanatan told Raghunath Das what had happened. And he told him, you've just engaged Srimati Radharani in your service. Now you have to build a hut. So Raghunath Das said, okay, I'll build a hut. And he built a hut here, in this place. And he lived here. Another time, Raghunath Das Goswami was sitting here, and he was absorbed in meditation on Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And he was in one of the pastimes in his form as a manjari. And Radha and Krishna were having a big feast of sweet rice. And then the remnants were given to the manjaris, the young gopi girls. And Raghunath Das in his gopi form, manjari form, he was eating the sweet rice, and it was such nectar, so much mercy in it, he couldn't stop. He was just eating and eating and eating the sweet rice in his manjari form, in meditation. Then he came out of the meditation, and after a little while he found that he was feeling a little sick. And then that afternoon he was meant to give class. Every day Raghunath Das would give class about Lord Chaitanya for 3 hours minimum. But that day he felt, no, I can't do it. I'm feeling too sick. So they called a doctor, and he tested Raghunath Das by some mystical Ayurvedic means. And he said, you know, Raghunath Das Goswami, he is suffering from indigestion, from having eaten too much sweet rice. And no one could believe it, because Raghunath Das, he was hardly eating anything. Every day, all he would have would be 1 leaf cup of buttermilk. And even some days he would forget about that. So they were thinking, it's not possible. How could he have indigestion from too much sweet rice? But Raghunath Das, he understood what had actually happened. So this also happened here at this Bhajan Kutia of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Then next door is the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He also lived here. He was here 2 generations after the 6 Goswamis. Here he wrote the Govastikam, which we sing every day at Mangalarti. And you can see, if you look across to your left, you can see there's one little pilu tree here. This little green bushy tree. It's a pilu tree. This is the descendant of one very old pilu tree, which was here when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was living here, and which was here actually when Radha and Krishna were here, and they were having their pastimes here. It had witnessed many of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur would sit here and talk with the tree. And he would ask the tree questions about the pastimes. And the tree would explain to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about so many pastimes, what happened, and the different meanings, the different moods and rasas being exchanged. In this way, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was able to write so many beautiful books with so many very authentic descriptions of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Right next to the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a very nice description in Chaitanya Charitamrita of how Lord Nityananda spoke to him in a dream and told him, you must go to Vrindavan, for there you'll find all success. So he came to Vrindavan, and after some time settled here on the banks of Radha Kund and Shama Kund. Here he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita in his very late old age. He also wrote the beautiful book Govinda Leelamrita, describing the eightfold pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna through the different stages of the day. Of course, those are very intimate descriptions and are not really suitable for most people. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appreciated that book very much, and he was thinking of publishing it. So he asked his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, yes, that's an excellent idea. You should publish it. You should print 1 copy and keep it for yourself. So this was the standard of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. very, very elevated standard of pure devotional service. But also he was able to convey things in very simple and very wonderful language so anyone could accept it, like in the case of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Next door to Krishnadas Kaviraja's Bhajan Kutia is the temple of Gadadhar Chaitanya, established by Ganga Mata Goswamini. In her earlier days she had been a queen, but she was so attracted to Krishna consciousness that she gave up everything and came to Vrindavana as a renunciate. On the altar are Lord Nityananda on our left, Lord Chaitanya in the center, and Gadadhar Pandit on our right. Sometimes being a Bhajananandi can be tiring work. The last place we visit in the Manasa Pavan Ghat area is the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He would sit here on the banks of Radha Kunda and chant the holy names, looking across to the sitting place of Mother Janava. The author of Bhakti Ratnakara says, "I worship Sri Gopal Bhatta Prabhu, who is the best of all Brahmins, and was engaged with utmost sincerity in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm unable to describe how Gaurahari favored Sri Gopal Bhatta." Down the road, opposite the Radha Govinda temple, is the Braj Swananda Sukhada Kunj, the house of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would sometimes stay during Kartik. Inside are their Pushpa Samadhis. There is also some of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's paraphernalia. This is his rocking chair. This is his bed, table, and chair. This was his toilet, and these are said to be his sacred shoes, and in the glass case is his walking stick. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would say that in the morning one should beat the mind 100 times with shoes, and in the evening 100 times with a stick. So we take the opportunity to give the devotees some special mercy with these items of the great Acharya himself. Back on the main Parikrama path, we find Jagannath Puri in Radha Kund. On the actual Rath Yatra day every year, Lord Jagannath, Lord Balaram and Lady Subhadra are taken on procession around Radha Kund and Shama Kund, as they do now all over the world. Further down the Parikrama path is the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Jiva Goswami. He would sometimes visit Radha Kund and write here. The deities are named Radha Damodar, after Jiva Goswami's personal deities. Also on the altar are these life-size footprints of Lord Chaitanya. come out of Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhajan Kutia and proceed towards Lalita Kund, passing some small samadhis.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Lalita Kund is immediately to the left of the Parikrama path. Previously, surrounding Radha Kund, there were kunds of all the Astasakis, plus the 8 main cowherd boys. But now, this is the only one remaining. Behind Lalita Kund is Mohan Kund, named after Lord Krishna. It's the sacred month of Kartik, so many pilgrims are doing parikrama on the path beside Lalita Kund. We try to induce some of the pilgrims to chant Radhe Sham, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe. Just past Lalita Kund, we watch some devotees preparing chanting beads.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
We visit the Radha Lalita Bihari temple. Next to the Lalita Bihari temple is a Radha Govinda temple established initially by the king of Manipur. Next we come to the Radha Vinod temple, where we meet an enthusiastic group of Bengali Kirtaniyas. Past Radhavanod and down an alley leading to Shamakund is the sitting place of Madhavendra Puri. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Madhavendra Puri was sitting under a tree in Vrindavan when a cowherd boy brought him a pot of milk. The boy said, "O Madhavendra Puri, please drink the milk I've brought. Why don't you beg some food to eat? What kind of meditation are you undergoing?" Madhavendra Puri said, "Who are you? Where do you reside? And how did you know that I was fasting?" The boy replied, "Sir, I'm a cowherd boy, and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts." Later the boy revealed to Madhavendra Puri in a dream that he was the long-lost Gopal deity, and Madhavendra located him and installed him on top of Govardhan Hill. Gopi Kua is the well where the tongue of Govardhan Hill was found. On top of the well is a large Govardhan Shila, and if you look closely you'll see that the monkey next to it has his arm around the Shila in a very affectionate manner. On the right, after Gopi Kua, is the Astasakhi temple. Here we see deities of Radha and Krishna and Radharani's 8 main girlfriends. On the left of the Parikrama path, just after the Astasakhi temple, is the Sitanath temple. On the altar are Lord Chaitanya in the center, Lord Nityananda on our left, and Sitanath, Advaita Acharya, on our right. Then on the right-hand side of the Parikrama path is the Gora Giridhari temple. From behind the temple is a nice view across Shamakund. Immediately opposite is the Radha Madhava temple. It is also run by devotees from Manipur. On the altar are Radha Madhava, Pratibhu forms of the deities of Jayadev Goswami. The original deities are now in Jaipur. Jayadev Goswami wrote the Das Avatar Stotra, from which we sing the verse to Lord Nrsingadev after artis in ISKCON temples. This is a picture of Jayadev. And this is a picture of Narottam Das Thakur, who went to Manipur as a preacher and transformed it into a Krishna-conscious kingdom. On the southeastern side of Shamakund is the temple of Bankandi Mahadev. It is a practice among Gaudiya Vaishnavas to have temples of Lord Shiva near their holy places, so that Shiva as a devotee can render service to the Lord by giving protection from bad elements. We then come around to the southern side of Shamakund, and the first place we visit there is the sitting place of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in ecstasy, but when he arrived at Aritgram, his sense perception was awakened. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the local people, "Where is Radha Kund?" No one could inform him, and the Brahmin accompanying him did not know either. The Lord then understood that the holy place called Radha Kund was no longer visible. However, being the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead, he discovered Radha Kund and Shamakund in two paddy fields. There was only a little water, but he took his bath there. When the people of the village saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking his bath in those two ponds in the middle of the paddy fields, they were very much astonished. The Lord then offered his prayers to Sri Radha Kund. The Lord said, "Of all the gopis, Radharani is the dearmost." Similarly, the lake known as Radha Kund is very dear to the Lord because it is very dear to Srimati Radharani. Just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Lord Krishna, so her lake, known as Radha Kund, is also very dear to him. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most beloved. In that lake, Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani used to sport daily in the water and have a rasa dance on the bank. Indeed, Lord Krishna gives ecstatic love like that of Srimati Radharani to whoever bathes in that lake even once in his life. The attraction of Radha Kund is as sweet as that of Srimati Radharani. Similarly, the glories of her Kund are as great as Srimati Radharani's. Because of its wonderful transcendental qualities, Radha Kund is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani. It was in that lake that the all-opulent Lord Sri Krishna performed his pastimes with Srimati Radharani with great pleasure and transcendental bliss. Whoever bathes just once in Radha Kund attains Srimati Radharani's loving attraction for Krishna. Who within this world can describe the glories and sweetness of Sri Radha Kund?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare.
Next we stop at the sitting place of Vallabhacharya, who is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. At one point he became a follower of Lord Chaitanya, but later he founded his own movement, known as Pushti Marg.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Further down on the right, we find the Madan Mohan temple.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Next to the altar is the Bhajan Kutia of Srila Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami lived here for many years. One time Srila Rupa Goswami composed a poem named Chatu Pushpanjali, and he came here to read it to Sanatan Goswami to get his approval and to find out if Sanatan felt anything needed to be corrected. So Rupa Goswami, he read that poem, Chatu Pushpanjali, to Sanatan Goswami. It's describing Srimati Radharani and her transcendental beauty. In one of the verses, Srila Rupa Goswami talks about Srimati Radharani's hair. He says that she has long black hair and she ties it in a single plait which hangs down her back. And when she walks, that plait moves on her back and it looks like a black snake. So when Rupa Goswami read that verse to Sanatan Goswami, Sanatan became perplexed. What is this? Radharani, a black snake? And he thought, how could this be appropriate? But then he thought, this is Srila Rupa Goswami, how could he say anything wrong? So he became a little anxious. At the end, Rupa Goswami asked him, so what do you think of the poem? And Sanatan Goswami said, let me think about it. So he came out here to the bank of Shamakund, overlooking Manasapavan Ghat. And he was looking out across the Kund and just considering, how could this be appropriate? It seems inappropriate. So as he was sitting and thinking like this, a group of young village girls came onto the banks of Shamakund there at Manasapavan Ghat, and they began a ball game, throwing a ball back and forth, jumping and laughing. And Sanatan Goswami was watching while he was thinking about this idea of the black snake. Suddenly he saw one of the girls who had her back to him, that there was a black snake climbing up her back and it was going to bite her on the neck. he jumped up and shouted, "Snake, snake!" And the girls all stopped the game. They became very concerned. And then they came and looked at the back of this girl that Sanatan was pointing to, and they started laughing. And they said, "What do you mean, snake? That's not a snake. That's her hair." And then they just laughed and laughed. And Sanatan Goswami felt very embarrassed. But then Sanatan was watching them. Suddenly, they just vanished. And Sanatan realized that was not just some little group of village girls. That was Srimati Radharani and the gopis. And they came and did this pastime just to show me that whatever Rupa Goswami says is right. So he came back in to where Srila Rupa Goswami was. Rupa Goswami asked him, "So please, you must tell me, what did you think of that poem?" And Sanatan Goswami said, "That's a very nice poem." He said, "Particularly the part about the black snake. I like that very much." So this occurred here, where the Madan Mohan temple is now, on the banks of Shamakund.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
A little further down the road is the Mahaprabhu Mandir, with nice deities of Sri Sri Gaurnitai. On the left is the last place we'll be visiting on our parikrama, the sitting place of Lord Nityananda, which is in the grounds of a Radha Gopinath temple. Lord Nityananda stayed in Sri Vrindavan Dham for some years before beginning the Sankirtan movement with Lord Chaitanya. It is said that when the time came to go back to Bengal to join Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda was staying here, and when he left, he roared so loudly that the whole universe shook. On the altar, a Radha Gopinath, with a Nanga Manjari on our left of Lord Krishna.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We conclude our parikrama as the sun sets over Radha Kund.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram.
On the way back out of the village, we again pass by Kundeshwar Mahadev, the Shiva Linga we saw as we began in the morning. In the evening, he's dressed up very grandly. The anniversary of the appearance of Radha Kund is on the Bahulastami day, the 8th day of the month of Kartik. Thousands of people come to bathe at midnight on that day. Our ISKCON devotees, headed by Ayindra Prabhu, have kirtan in the samadhi of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami.
Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Radharani searching for Krishna. That love that Mahaprabhu was searching all over India for to find, he found here at Govardhan and at Radha Kunda. And then when he found this reservoir, Radha Kunda and Shama Kunda, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he opened his heart. He opened his heart and he unleashed, he opened the floodgates. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the floodgates of his heart. And his heart has two reservoirs. There's a reservoir of Shamras and there's a reservoir of Radha Ras. Like we have this book, Radha Ras Sudhanidhi. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the floodgates of his heart, one chamber of his heart is full of Shamras. And he opened the floodgates of his heart, and all this rushing river, this rushing, raging river of Shamras flowed out of his heart and filled the waters of Shamakund. And when he opened the floodgates of the second chamber of his heart, which was full of this Radha Ras, then all that Ras, that love for Radha, flowed out of his heart and torrent and rushing streams and gushing streams and filled what is known as Radha Kund. So here in this place, Radha Kund, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he emptied his heart. His heart, whatever he had collected in his search, whatever Mahaprabhu collected in his search all over India, searching for Krishna. Where is Krishna? Where is Brajendra Nandan? Where is my Shamasundar? Where is my Prananath? All of that, those pent-up feelings of separation, and all that ras, that Sham ras, and that Radha ras, he emptied it, you could say. He poured it out in this place called Radha Kunda and Shamakund. So that's why Radha Kunda and Shamakund are so special, because they're full of, they love. Radha Kunda is the heart of Radharani, and Shamakund is the heart of Krishna. Sometimes it's called Krishna Kund and Radha Kund. It's called Sri Kund or Radha Kund and Shama Kund or Krishna Kund. So anyone who comes, anyone who's so fortunate by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and one comes to know about the glories of Radha Kund and Shama Kund by reading Nectar Instruction by Rupa Goswami, which has been given to us by Srila Prabhupada, our great guardian and well-wisher and protector. Anyone comes to know about Radha Kund's glories will come here and worship this sacred place. And he'll do parikama here, and he'll read the glories, and then he'll take snan, he'll take bath here. He'll bathe in the Radha Kund, and by bathing in Radha Kund, he'll receive all the mercy and all that beautiful ras of Radha Ras will come into his heart. And then by bathing in Shama Kund, then he'll receive all this beautiful ras of Shama Kund, the Sham Ras. So when this Radha Ras and Sham Ras mix in the heart, then one will realize the true teachings of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. The last teaching that Prabhupada gave in relation to Radha Kund can be found in a room conversation. Prabhupada was lying in his room, spending his last days of his manifest pastimes here in Krishna Balaram Mandir, in his house, in his Bhajan Kutir in Ramanreti, in the month of November 10th, only 4 days before Srila Prabhupada left this world. He had a small conversation. This is November 10th, 1977. He had a small conversation with a handful of disciples who were there. One can hear this. And they said, I think it was Tamal Krishna Maharajan and other devotees, Lokanath Swami. And they said, Prabhupada, the bullock cart is ready. Your wish to do parikama of Govardhan in a bullock cart, lying down in the back, is ready. We have Hansaduta and Lokanath Swami, they have the bullock cart ready to take you on your desired parikama of Govardhan Hill. And Prabhupada said, very good. And then Tamal Krishna asked the question, Prabhupada, when you come to Radha Kund, would you like us to make arrangements? Would you like us to make arrangements for you to take snan or take bath in Radha Kund? Then Prabhupada on November 10th, 1977, which is the last instruction that Srila Prabhupada ever gave about Sri Radha Kund, Prabhupada replied to that question, no, I won't take bath because of his condition, his infirmity and his disease. He said, I won't take bath. But all of you, Srila Prabhupada said, all of you take bath on my behalf. So all of you means his disciples. Because Srila Prabhupada was sitting with his disciples, his senior sannyasis and brahmacharis, grihastas. Many disciples were gathered in Prabhupada's room in those last days. And so Prabhupada said, all of you take bath in Radha Kund on my behalf. So these are the last words spoken by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, about the glories of Sri Radha Kund. So all of you means all of Prabhupada's disciples, and all of you means all of Prabhupada's grand disciples, and all of you means all the followers of the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. So, echoing or repeating the orders of our spiritual father, I would like to humbly request all of you to please bathe with great reverence, great devotion, great dedication, great surrender, and a pure desire to attain the eternal service of Radha and Krishna. All of you members of ISKCON and followers of ISKCON, please take a bath in Radha Kund and Shama Kund on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
राधारानी की
जय
राधा कुंड की श्याम कुंड की इस राधा कुंड श्री राधा रानी lotus की 68 million rivers in here, two bodies, one heart, pure nectar part, Radha Kund and Sham Kund, pure energy, devotion life anyone want, without this permission never admission Krishna life. Krishna here big leelas. One time Krishna die one demon Arishtasur. This from bull. Radharani speak to Lala, you aparad, kill bull same cow. You go all the rivers, take bath. Sri Govinda Dev, midnight, 68 million rivers, Baulashtami day, bring here and 3 times feet ground, rock, digging, Shyamakund. First Radharani digging hand bangles, Radha Kund. These two bodies, one heart, this side mix. They said all the great acharyas with Bangkok, Radha Kund, Tapasya, Raghunath Das Goswami, Six Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhavendra Puri, Ashtakaviraj, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, every year 4 months living this place only. Only steps cleaning, Jhadu Seva. Every year 4 months, Chaturtha Mas, Radha Kund. Vaishnava devotee, devotion life, Radha Kund first necessary from energies from Radharani's. Jagat Swami Sri Krishna, Krishna Swami Radharani. All universe control Lord Krishna and Krishna full control Radha Kund. Krishna 16 Kala Avatar 1 and 6. Radharani 64 Kala Avatar 64. श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन और मधुर मधुर बंसी बाजे यही वृंदावन 3 वृंदावन ऑल ऑफ यूनिवर्स नवद्वीप गुप्त वृंदावन गुप्त मिस क्लोज जगन्नाथपुरी गुप्त वृंदावन मिस क्लोज दिस वृंदावन न्यू वृंदावन एंड राधा कुंड एंड श्याम कुंड गोलोक टू बेटर वन वृंदावन ओनली राधा कुंड एंड श्याम कुंड टू गोवर्धन हिल गिरिराज गोवर्धन सेम पीको राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड श्री गिरिराज जी 2 eyes Radha Kund and Shyam. This side, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, no touch feet. Bhakti Siddhant, no touch feet. Radha Kund, no necessary bath. First, Gurudev order. Initiation master order after anyone go down there. Because Radha Kund and Radharani, no different. Jai Radha, Sei Kundo, Bhed Nai, Bhed Nai, Bhed Nai. Ei Kunde, Nitya Krishna Radhukar, Sange, Jalo Jalo, Kheli Kare, Tirash Sange. Ei Kunde, this Kund. Every day with Krishna, Radharani together. Jal players, Radha Kund, ei kunde nitya Krishna Radhukar sange. Jalo jalo kheli kore tirash range. Tatha ratha Vishnu tasya kundam priyam tatha. Sarva gopi sarve ka Vishnu antyanta vallabh. Jai kore Sri Kunde ek bar snan. Taki Radha Krishna kore prem dan. Bolo Radharani ki, Radha Kund ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati prays, obeisances to the beautiful couple that stays in Vrindavan, obeisances to the beautiful couple that wanders in Vrindavan, obeisances to the beautiful couple that is the life of Vrindavan, obeisances to the hero and heroine of Vrindavan, obeisances to the beautiful couple that is merciful in Vrindavan, obeisances to the beautiful couple that is the transcendental nectar of Vrindavan, obeisances to the beautiful couple that is the perfection of Vrindavan. No place is more exalted than Vrindavan forest. No person is more lowly than me. It is only by the power of Sri Radha's holy name that these two have met. May the all-wonderful, limitlessly powerful, and supremely auspicious holy name of Vrindavan's Queen once be glorious in my mouth.